who the sponsors are this morning for the Experience Live with Russ and Scott.
Who the It's not the Aging Better Network, and
It is, but
oh, it
who is
is.
the other one is Jim Coleman and
Yeah.
State Farm Insurance. Those are the sponsors this month, and I had last month's with. Thank you so much. Blessings to Summit and to the Gelato Home team who have been
Mhm.
amazing with us. But
Yeah,
the Aging Better
absolutely.
Network is still there, but so is Jim Coleman, State Farm Insurance. Who's so thankful for
Yeah.
him and
So Jim
his sponsorship.
Coolman, I met many, many years ago because our sons were playing Pop Warner football, and we coached together. We got to coach our sons, and so we actually coached together for 5 seasons. And
Wow,
so it
five
was a lot of
cents.
fun. We got to hang out, and his son Curtis is a great guy, and his Jim and his wife Amy. Not only does he have a great business, but they're also involved in Young Life, and have been for
Oh,
many years. And
yes.
it's just he's a great man, and the business is really good. In fact, he is my insurance agent. So
There you go. Well, I am so blessed to know so many amazing insurance agents, and
mhm,
Jim has been a great, great friend for so many years for me as well. And he
yeah,
and his wife Amy are just amazing. And here is this morning's there it is, showing the Aging Better Network and State Farm and Jim Coleman. And
mhm,
we're just so thankful for them. And that's one thing too that I got to make sure is get Jim's name on that as well. It's just been a doozy morning for me, but there we go. Hey, this is live, and whatever happens, everybody, that's what happens.
yeah,
I have no excuses, but I do appreciate everybody's prayers. I was up at OHSU yesterday getting just a checkup and a PET scan. And so thank you for all of you that have been praying for me over this last year plus. And yes, I'm expecting great results. But that's probably what distracted me yesterday, getting ready, because I was up there all day. Oh,
well,
anyway,
it is a an emotional time, and so
yes,
we give you grace, and
thank you.
they're just praying for you and all the results, and for Leah as well as your wife and your son
Yes,
and daughter. So I know
thank you.
it's just a time, and but you're not alone.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And really, hey, Jim, if you're watching, which I hope you are, you've got like three times the amount of time of us talking about State Farm as the sponsors normally get because of my mistake. So actually, it has benefited. We do. This is one thing I want to tell everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of
Mhm,
you who do support the Experience Live with Russ and Scott every week, because that is how we can do this. There are a lot of costs that go into this with our time and with the advertising and with the setup of all things that
mhm.
that go together with the live stream and the equipment and all of that. And so without you and your sponsorships, we would not be able to do this. So we do appreciate that. And if you're ever interested in talking to us about that, we would love to chat
Mhm.
with you, especially getting ready going into the new year. So, Scott, we got some great guests today, and I'm super
Yeah.
excited. And so, since my little things have taken over the opening of the show, why don't we just jump into it?
Well,
Get the guys in here.
this is good. We're gonna be talking operations today, and you think, "Well, but I don't run a factory." And I'm like, "But you produce something every day, and, it may be caring for yourself or your family, it may be in your business, but you deliver, and we're gonna get great tips today, and I'm looking forward to it." So, yeah, let's get right into the show.
Right on. So we're going to bring Dave in first because he could tell me how to get the process of my brain moving and get me going. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. Good morning. Great to be here with you guys. Always a pleasure to be joining you two fine gents
Thank
anytime
you.
I get to. So yeah.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you so much. And really, you're so busy and I'm so busy and everything happens. Really, sometimes the best time for us to chat is when I bring you on live because we're going two different
It's easier to
directions.
get in the schedule, isn't
I
it?
know. I'm just going to schedule Dave live and then I can talk to him. So,
Well, you can get
anyway,
a glimpse into David's brain by following him on LinkedIn, because you post some great stuff. You post some really good little
oh,
video
yeah.
clips, but the comments that go with it are really what's valuable.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Dave,
thanks so much. I appreciate that.
as I get ready to let you introduce yourself and take this over, I just want to say that what Scott just said about what you produce. One thing I loved about Dave right off the bat is I was on his show and he took snippets out of that show and he broadcast those things of me talking from his show for like 2 years after a show, I think. And every now and then they still show up. So, yeah, we're going to have to do your show again. So you have some new snippets, Dave. There you go. But anyway.
Yeah, they live forevermore, Russ. So forevermore.
All right. Well, hey, take it away. Tell everybody about who is Dave and what are you up to?
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. For anybody that doesn't know, my name is Dave Chrysler, and I own a operations consulting business. And what does that really mean? I work with folks in leadership and help them to create and optimize systems throughout their business, looking for ways to not just reduce friction and free up resources, but really drive improvements in both cash flow and profitability. So back to what Scott and Russ both said. We have these things that happen in our businesses all day, every day, and looking for kind of meaningful ways to connect what we're doing on a daily basis through process improvement, through systemization is really what I love to do and what I've done for many, many years now. Happy to be here with you two and looking forward to a great conversation.
Yeah, you definitely are full of great information when it comes to all of that. And I really enjoy that. And, another gentleman that I had the pleasure of meeting recently, I can tell you, Phillip, when we met, I was thinking, I got to get this guy on with Dave. That was my first thought. And here he is. Good morning, Phillip.
Good morning.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Good. All right. Glad to have you here. And, we had a wonderful conversation. And why don't you give everybody a little snapshot? Who is Phillip Brown and what are you up to?
My name is Phillip Brown. I am the owner of a software consulting company called Blue Pit Incorporated. For the past 15 years, I have worked with all sizes of companies, but mainly the large corporations, and helping them kind of refine and develop their project management processes and workflows and put software to that, integrate those software processes across the company, including your time tracking software, your financial software, everything that it takes to make a project come together and get completed, as well as resources. And I've just been helping the companies bring that together. And kind of one of the things I noticed in corporations is that they got confused when it came to projects. And even though they brought project managers in, they didn't have a set process. So once I figured that out, I got in with a couple companies and they liked what I did. And I said, well, this could be a business. So I started a software consulting company to help them do that.
I love it. That's, I always tell people when if they're thinking about starting a business, you just go look back and who asked you a question because you had the ability to answer it. And then ask yourself, do other people get paid to answer that question? If so, you probably have a business. But I love that we have you guys on here. One of the favorite books that we like to refer to here is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he says, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So we've got you guys here to help people understand, what does it mean to have a system?
Dave, why don't you take that away?
Yeah, happy to. From my perspective, systems really come down to kind of four key elements. You've got, planning, people, process, and technology. And oftentimes, when people talk about systems, kind of their immediate thought is technology. And, I love technology. I've solved many a challenge through technology. But what I find more often than not is that we look towards technology first before we understand what the process is. And even before we can understand what the process is, we need to tap into the people that are doing the process. So we often take a kind of what I consider backwards approach when we're problem solving within our businesses, thinking that the technology is the actual problem. And, in my experience, that is very most often not the problem, right? That's probably the best way to say it. Most often the problem is in and around your processes And that technology is really just intended to execute the process flows that have been predefined, with the people that are doing the work. So, technology adoption, implementation, depending on who you want to reference, but is somewhere between a 70 and 85% failure rate for both adoption and implementation. And the reason is because we are thinking technology is going to solve the problem when really our real root cause of the issue is our process flows within there. So if we can get the people together to understand what processes we need to execute, how we can optimize those, and then identify a technology that allows us to execute those process flows, we're going to be far further ahead within our businesses. And we're going to save quite a bit of money in terms of both our tech stack, both implementation time, kind of just generalized, employee turnover, retention, attracting talent. All of those things are all related to developing better systems within your business.
Perfect. And Phillip, I'll let you take it from here, but I find that what you said there, Dave, is that you have happier employees when you have better processes, and when you have things together and they're running more smoothly, it's not only going to be way more productive, but also the people are not going to be frustrated that are working for you.
Yeah. I don't want to jump on Phillip here, but, just to add to that quickly, Russ, again, a lot of times as leaders, we are seeing the symptoms of what the issue is, right? And it's uncovering, the root cause behind those, and employee engagement, retention, attracting top talent folks, like they can sniff that stuff out. If you don't have well-developed processes, if you don't have systems within your business, you're going to really struggle on the people side. And ultimately it's the people that are doing the thing that build a business. Everything else is in its supporting spot. So.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Dave, and I'll transition in pretty easily with the first two steps in what I do with a corporation when I start working with them is the assessment and planning, right? Figure out what their current process is and how deep they're into it. And then the second is culture and change management, because without being able to go through a process to get your management and your project managers and your employees in line with whatever changes you're going to have to make, your efforts are going to be for naught, right? So they have to be on board. They have to understand that there are changes coming and that, you're going to refine this to make things better for them. A lot of times people don't like to do things different, right? They're comfortable where they're at in what they're doing, whether that's using an Excel spreadsheet for everything or whatever it may be, and they don't want to go to a new software because you have to learn something, right? They don't want to change a process because then you have to do something different every day, and it gets people out of their comfort zone. So a lot of times if you can make that comfort zone or that uncomfort zone a little bit easier to get into, then people kind of will go with that flow. Give them a path that they understand and they can clearly see. And that also attracts, like you said, better talent. So when you have a path that's clear and you come into a company and you know exactly what their processes are and how they're going to fulfill those processes throughout the project management cycle, then those people are a lot more at ease when they do their jobs.
And Phillip, I'd like to ask you about project management, just so we can get an idea of what it is for folks. But one of the things that I was remembering is back was at Hewlett Packard, and I'm running supply chain operations. We had a warehouse, and we were changing the software system. And all of my staff, they were just, oh, this is going to kill the company. It's going to be so hard. And, they loved the system that we had. But many of them had been there for years. In fact, when that software came in, they said the same thing about the old one, right? It was going to kill the company. It's going to be harder and everything's going to get done. And I go, okay, so the software that you love today was the one you hated back in the day, right?
Exactly.
But I think project management fundamentals, one of the things that I've seen is that a lot of workplace conflict or misunderstanding comes around the project management fundamentals of scope, schedule, and resource, where people are scope is, what you get done, and to what level of quality and schedule is when is it going to get done, resource, how much time, money, and effort are you going to be able to put into it? And a lot of people think, oh, I need to get it done now, or I can't turn it until it's really good, but they don't communicate with each other what they're expecting.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, that's where, there's a new style of, I'll call it a new style of project management. It's actually been around a while, called agile. So the old way is to create a schedule and everyone knows exactly what they're doing, what tasks they're doing, when they're supposed to finish it, how they're supposed to finish it. And then in the new way is agile, right? You have daily meetings, you have shorter tasks that take maybe 2 to 4 weeks, and you do it in a way that you can change things on the fly. So it kind of chops it up into smaller bite-sized pieces for the mass users to consume easier. So it's you don't want to shove the whole pizza in their mouth. You just want to give them a little slice at a time to see, if they like it and they adjust to it, right? So, and that's kind of what the project management philosophy that I work with in most of these companies. The biggest thing is, while they know the steps to get there, they don't often have that organized, right? So they may be using one system to deal with like the schedule, and they may use another system to understand the financials, and then there's another system to understand the resources. And then you have like, okay, well, what happens if I need 3 of this resource to complete this process or this piece of the schedule? And those 3 resources are working on something else. So what I help them do is kind of consolidate all that confusion into a single software or a single process that kind of puts everything in front of them, so they can see that when they start a project, they can say, I have this project that I need to do. I've got this much budget for it. These are the resources that are currently available, and these are the resources that I need. So do I need to go hire somebody? Do we need to cross-train somebody? So, and those are the kind of things that you have to look at when you're organizing a project. And when I think of project management, it's not just like these massive projects. It's not, most people look at projects and they're like, oh, do you mean like building something in construction or something like that? Or if you're software oriented, you mean like building a new software? That's not necessarily a project. A project can be anything that has a beginning and something produced at the end, right? So, I mean, Russ, this each episode is a project for you, right? You gather everything together, you figure out what time it's going to be, who's going to be on it. You kind of have to like get everybody timed right and make those preparations, and then we're on the final product right now, right? So that all takes some type of management to make it come together smoothly.
Well, and Phillip, I think we
just to jump on
can,
whatever, right?
yeah, and I think we can see here that I need help with my project management, since I missed a piece coming into this show. But no, and this is okay. This is what I think is important, though. That's a great thing you brought up, because when you have a system and then something goes wrong, I know exactly what went wrong, and I will correct it before the next project. So life does not stop. And I am not all downtrodden because I messed up the sponsor video. I just made up for it here in the show by talking about the sponsor, and then I'll fix the video for the next show. No big deal. And I think that's one thing that people do. If they have a process and it doesn't go perfect, they think they're a failure and they think that things didn't go well. And that's not true. Everybody is learning, right, Dave, through every step of the way of the process.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of oftentimes I look at it through the lens. It's kind of like budgeting, right, or strategic planning. I think about it the same way, and it, instead of it kind of hindering you or creating issues or pointing out, our flaws or what we did wrong, right? It's really the opposite. It's kind of giving us permission. It's giving us the bounds. It's giving us the goal, and it's giving us an opportunity to identify what those gaps are, right? And when you have a system that is being executed, by multiple people, it's easier to then see what those gaps are kind of aggregated. So ultimately, what you're doing is identifying those gaps so you can put in some sort of improvement effort into resolving those gaps. So it's very much so about identifying the gaps that are going to exist, and those gaps could be because we've missed some part of it, we've not provided the resources to be able to support that. Or it can be because, something else has changed, right? The inputs, the outputs, something else has changed. So it's not always necessarily, a negative from the standpoint of, well, Russ, you didn't do something, right? Like, how often have we kind of taken that lens? I know I did, kind of in my early leadership days, right? It's like, well, Dave, obviously just doesn't care because Dave didn't do XYZ part of, this process. And the reality of it is that generally, that's not the case, right? There is some gap that's been identified, and that could be because we've not provided resources. Maybe Dave's a visual learner, and all I've provided from a resource standpoint was, long form written documentation that doesn't give Dave the prompts he needs from a visual standpoint to execute this process, the way that we've intended best practice to be, right? So it's just about identifying what the gaps are, understanding, is this a gap that, exists and has existed and we need to, address it? Or, was this some sort of anomaly? So that's really what process and systemization is all about. It's giving you a tool to understand what's happening throughout your business, and giving you the, kind of the roadmap, if you will, to say, to really prioritize what those gaps are, and if it's something that you ultimately want to address. So
We've talked about the people and how much better life is for your folks when you have those good systems. And we used to talk about heroics, right? Some things we get done through heroics, right? They're working long hours, or they're doing some things that are just above and beyond. And the reason they did it is because they didn't have a system, or the system broke down. And trying to manage employees through heroics is a great way to burn out your staff and lose them.
Yeah. It's also completely inconsistent, right? Because while I may, have some heroic act today or tomorrow or for a week, the reality of sustaining those efforts over the long term. And then when you talk about consistency from two sides, consistency customer facing is obvious, right? But internally, and how that translates into teamwork effort, how that translates across departments or in between the silos that exist within an organization. So it becomes very unwieldy to not just manage, but to motivate and to keep people on that same path. So, it really is our job from a leadership standpoint to identify those gaps and to create the systems that ultimately solve for those things in a meaningful way. Because again, without any of that, you're going to really struggle to retain and ultimately attract folks into the business. And you see examples of that all over the place. I mean, my favorite story of this was it was like in the early days of the pandemic, and I was out on the road and drove by a business that had, a literal sign out front that said, unreliable need not apply, right? Like, that shouts to me a business that, is struggling to obviously retain and attract top talent. And why is that? It's because the leadership is not, identified, created, and optimized the systems within their business.
I think
right?
that goes back to Phillip's comments and culture.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about creating a system and optimizing a system is you may have sleepers in your company already that you don't know about. They're just confused because you don't have a defined process or some system that's set in stone, right? And the other cool thing about that is a lot of the companies that I work with, when we get the processes and the systems created, then they can automate a lot of that, and they don't realize what they can automate until they know what their processes and their systems are, until they've created those SOPs or playbooks or whatever you want to call them, right? And then they're like, well, wow, we can really automate this? Like, yeah. And then your employees don't have to be like, oh, I got to do that again. They can say, oh, yeah, I can just flip a button and have that report to you or whatever it might be, right? And it allows your employees to do more of what they want to do, more of what they were hired to do, instead of that additional duties thing that's in everybody's job description, right? So I think it makes for a happier culture when your employees don't have to do side activities that they don't necessarily like to do, when those side activities can be automated, and that all comes from knowing what your processes are, what your systems are, and creating those so that they're in place.
Right, right. And as I jump in here as the responsible host, as we are winding down our time here, I wanted to say that, I think there's nothing more frustrating to an employee to have those gigantic gaps in the processes, things that are going that they don't think leadership is actually looking at. And so that culture is, and that whole mindset of the company is going down. It makes it less productive. And I think when you're able to, number one, listen to your employees, get buy-in on changes. And like you said, Phillip, take it bite size, a bite at a time, just a little bit, and get everybody working together to make the change. Then change is not so as nearly as difficult as when it just comes down from the C-suite and they're told, we're flipping everything, we're changing everything, this is what you're doing. And everybody's like going, yeah, but that doesn't really work because
Right.
you're not down here. And I'm going to give one 30-second story, and then we're going to give you guys a moment for your last comments. And that is, my beautiful wife, it works in an elementary school, and she was teaching reading groups. She had tweaked the system that comes down through the grant from the federal government to work for her students. She was told she couldn't do that, and she was told she had to change it back. And she said, but that doesn't work. She actually stood up for herself. They came and watched her process and how it worked better, and they actually let her change that process. And I think sometimes employees need to speak up and say, hey, there's things we can do. Let's work together and make it better. I've got a good idea. And with that, Dave, we're going to give you both the last word. We're going to start with you. Give us your gold nuggets from today, and how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think my gold nuggets, what I would impart to kind of tack onto your story, Russ, is, oftentimes as leaders, we're thinking about problems far longer than when we kind of present what we feel like is a necessary change within the organization. And because we're doing that, we very often fail to ask our team the how, right? So it's perfectly great for us as leadership to define and articulate the why and the what, but we need to engage our team to understand how, because they've got the the touch to how we can actually accomplish this thing that we've laid out. So I think that's what I would leave folks with today. In terms of getting in touch with me, I'm super active on LinkedIn, so would love to connect with you there. You can also welcome to find me on our website.
Awesome, Dave. Always appreciate you, and your information that you just gave magically appeared now below you. And I just want to remind everybody, it's clickable. It's in the show notes. It's in the comments. Please connect with these wonderful men. And Phillip, you're up next.
I think the biggest takeaway would be, kind of like Dave, to the leadership is you really have to listen to your employees. And if your organization is too big where you can't listen to all your employees, then you need more sets of ears that you trust to listen to those employees, right? And really understand what's going on within your organization. And if you need to refine the processes that you have in place, and if they're working the way that they're supposed to be working. And the only way you can find that out is when you get down to where everybody can kind of provide feedback. So, and if anybody wants to reach out to me, like Dave, I am on LinkedIn and pretty active on there. I don't know that I post everything that Dave posts. I am figuring out that I need to adjust my lighting, because you guys have wonderful lighting and mine's kind of off. So I'll figure that out later. But you can reach me at, Russ put everything there. So those are the best places to reach me. And I'll be happy to talk with anyone.
All right. All right. And as we put up there, Phillip's LinkedIn information and his website, and just for our audio listeners, Phillip, give us your website again.
The website is bluepitt.com. That's BLUPITT.com.
Perfect. Perfect. And Dave, one more time, give us your website so everybody can hear that.
Sure. It's thechrysler.club, CRYSLER.
Perfect. Perfect. And guys, I'm telling you, appreciate you both so much. Love these discussions. You two, I need help from you every day because I always need help with the process. I am the brain and the encouraging guy and the happy right brain guy, but not always the process guy. So that's why Scott is here, because Scott is more of the process guy. Not that he's not happy, but he is definitely more process oriented than I. So I want to thank you both, or we want to thank you both. And as we say goodbye, hang tight. We're going to meet you in the green room in just a minute after we wrap up. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Systems,
Woo!
processes. We need those systems and processes, as said, just to make the show, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a list of people. You go through a process. Ever does a lot of work about sending out the emails, the creating the link, the graphics, where they post. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and it does take systems and processes.
So you brought up Ever, my wonderful assistant, who is teammate, who is amazing and
Mhm.
helps you and I, Scott, here, blesses us on the experience. And, I think her biggest job was to get me organized in my brain when we first started working together, and the checklist and the process list. So
Yeah.
she helped me really think things through and get to the point where, I really did have processes, but hadn't written them out and hadn't actually thought them through, which helps a lot in making sure you stick to it. Or if you have a
Mhm.
change or need somebody else to step in and help, you know where things are going. So yes, I believe those are so important in all that you do. And we just appreciate everybody being here. Just speaking of
Yeah.
processes, we're here every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on The Experience, live with Russ and Scott, where we talk
Mhm.
about the experience of life and the amazing people that we have on this show, like Dave and Phillip, that give you value for what you're doing in your job and your life. I want to remind you, if you're watching on replay, which a lot of people do, please put hashtag Team Replay and say hi and let us know. Make sure and connect with these gentlemen, and you can share this show out anytime, whether you're watching live or on replay. You can share it out. So I would encourage you to please share. And also, please, again, subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to build up
Mhm.
our YouTube page. We appreciate that. The best way to do that, the experience.video. Simple, easy. Go to that and subscribe today. And we would love to have you as part of that. And I'm trying to think, Scott, if I missed anything other than now the ticker is going along the bottom of the screen
Well, I
with
think
everybody's info.
this is fabulous, and on the YouTube thing, please subscribe and let us know. Send us a message, make a comment here on your YouTube channel, and we'll follow you back. We'll reciprocate.
There
That's
you go.
something that we can do for each other.
And what is in it for you? Let me tell you. You have access in one place to an amazing library of amazing guests. Who
Mhm.
needs to binge Netflix? You can binge The
Right.
Experience Live with Russ and Scott this weekend, and you can watch all these amazing guests we've had on, because there's so much value, so much information that you would find so interesting. And that is all available on the experience.video on our YouTube page. So thank you for doing that. And Scott, with that, what do you got coming up this week? Anything before we go?
Well, I think the big thing is the independent planner. So it's a combination of a planner and a journal designed for entrepreneurs by an entrepreneur. Well, that's me. And the undated version of it, the 4-month, will be coming out on Amazon soon. And so Vanessa Smith is doing the layout for me. There's a last piece to do, but we're going to get that published probably within the next week. And so I'm going to be sending out a PDF to folks who would like to take a look at it, add some input, and your name may appear in the book. And you will get credit on the Amazon website. And so I would love the feedback from folks. So reach out to me, Independent Planner and Journals coming up.
Awesome. And I need to get you information on that. And I do appreciate Vanessa so much and all she's doing for you and what a good friend she is. And what an amazing talent she is. I thanked her in the comments, everybody. You can click on her name, go directly to Vanessa as well. And so appreciate that. Want to remind you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time is Marketing with Russ, aka #RussSelfie, with an amazing guest. You'd want to tune in to see that. And tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, we have Russ Reels Live, which you do not want to miss. The amazing panel I have tomorrow in our discussion. So appreciate everybody being here. We love this community. Please share this out again and let people know that we're here every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And we are always excited because at the end of the show, we have Kermie here to make you smile. So until we see you again, have a great day, great life, and enjoy
the experience.
Thanks for tuning in to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.